As a wedding gift, the parents of Greta and Fritz Tugendhat present the young couple with a piece of land located near Brno, in what is now the Czech Republic. The couple commissioned the architect Mies van der Rohe, who, at the time, was finalizing details for the German pavilion at the Barcelona Exposition, to carry out the project. With an unlimited budget from the client, this housing project represents the opportunity for the German architect to put his architectural and design ideas into practice. The Villa Tugendhat, built between 1929 and 1930, will provide a combination of the use of the open plan with more restricted spaces within a domestic use. The land is located on a steep hill, which descends abruptly. The footprint of the construction is displaced on the highest part. The architectural program is divided into 3 levels. The main entrance, the garages and the bedrooms are located on the upper floor at street level. The remaining floors are sunk into the terrain to suit the topography. The lower level houses service spaces and functions as a base in the composition of the rear facade. The intermediate level is made up of the social area of the project. By the border adjacent to the street, the access to the house is located, which is aligned horizontally to the road. A single-level volume is perceived, topped with flat roofs and white walls. A facade of modest proportions and an almost industrial character rises. In its central section, the building folds back from the street, projecting the ceiling onto a curved white glass wall, leading towards the entrance end, at the same time, creating a framed opening that offers a spectacular panoramic view of the center of the old town, the cathedral and the castle of Spilberg. This view is flanked by the garage on the right, and a building mass arranged parallel to the street on the left. Upon entering the house, on the upper floor, the user finds himself in front of a large hall, traditionally used to receive guests, before formal access to the house. The floor is covered with large pieces of travertine. The doors, made of rosewood, extend from floor to ceiling and the furniture of a living room is arranged. The hall connects with the private area of the house, made up of the bedrooms, which are confined by means of conventional divisions. The bedrooms have exits to a large terrace, where magnificent views of the city are appreciated. At the same level, a flight of stairs follows the semicircular path of the white glass wall, to descend to the social area of the project. At the foot of the stairs, the view opens dramatically to a wide horizontal space of height and a half. The huge glass plates of the floor-to-ceiling windows create a striking impression that this space is completely open to the outside. The living room becomes an open terrace. The spectator's vision will focus, by downplaying the close-ups, on the panoramas of the city and the countryside. The large volume freely integrates the living room, the dining room, a work area and the library, in a single space. A greenhouse flanks this room on the northeast side. The areas are only divided by a large onyx plate, which goes from floor to ceiling, arranged in the longitudinal direction of the house, and which delimits the living room from the work area. and by a semi-cylindrical screen covered with Macassar ebony, which protects the dining room from the rest of the space. The library with built-in shelving and seating is arranged in the northeast corner of the floor and remains open to the living room behind the onyx wall. Complementing this level, the kitchen, a pantry and service areas, delimited by fixed and conventional divisions. The use of steel structures in private homes was rare at the time. At Villa Tugendhat, Van der Rohe creates structural frames that span the 3 levels of the house, which are built on reinforced concrete blocks, attached to a huge retaining wall. The structure is divided into 7 longitudinal modules and 3 transversal modules. The load-bearing beams are arranged perpendicular to the longitudinal axis of the house. The columns are made of steel angles, riveted in such a way that a cruciform section is created, and they run the entire height of the building. This structure allows the distribution on each level to be flexible and completely independent from the rest of the floors. Despite such freedom, only the large volume of the social area assumed the form of an open plan. Both private and service areas were more conventionally defined as rooms. The cruciform columns are projected to be exposed in the social area, where they are clad in a chrome finish. On the upper floors, Mies located the walls to hide the columns, against which the owners feared to collide. Although the open and fluid spatial continuum of the public areas will establish the identity and reputation of the house, its formal and spatial order was in fact hybrid. The slender steel columns mark the space of the large volume, but are barely legible as a structural grid. They serve more as a visual counterpoint to the walls and as objects in space that help the eye gauge depth. Its cruciform shape and chrome coating further undermine the ability to understand its materiality and structural role. This gives the impression of a magical suspension of reality, of an ethereal and dematerialized space floating on the edge of the valley. The continuity of the bay windows along the south and east elevation, along with the reduction of the frames to their minimum expression, as well as the presence of a huge weeping willow tree beyond the building, further emphasize the dramatic effect. The horizontal planes of the plaster ceiling and the white linoleum floor accentuate the continuity, while the rugs and furniture demarcate areas for specific uses and activities within the space. Mies creates a visual connection between interior and exterior. This effect is reinforced by completely retracting from the ground towards the lower level 2 of the large glass panels along the south facade. An opening is generated through the dining room area, where stairs will lead to the outdoor areas. The furniture in the house were designed by Mies himself, in collaboration, once again, with Lily Reich. Like the house itself, the furniture material palette combined chrome-plated steel and glass with traditional materials, rich in appearance and warm to the touch, such as leather, wicker, parchment and wood. While the extension of this furniture surely gave the house a coherent character, the individual elements were reinterpretations of familiar types, employing abstract forms, sensual materials, and fine craftsmanship, rather than formal or representative motifs. These were not unique handcrafted productions intended to express the personality of the owner, but rather new specimens of occasional chairs, armchairs and tables that could be mass-produced and used in many other buildings, including those of other architects. Away from the bustle of modern life, the house promotes inner calm, peace and contemplation, aligning itself with the rhythms, pleasures and cycles of nature, within which it is both different and equal, in dialogue and harmony. Architecture is reduced to a few elements, clad in uniform but rich materials, with exceptionally strong and at the same time, subtle optical effects. In Villa Tugendit, nature and spirit are related to each other, not through a hierarchy, nor through an opposition. Rather, they are linked, one within the other. Over and over again, the line between inside and outside, house and garden, self and other, is blurred or reversed, producing a potentially disconcerting effect of immersion in nature. The house dissolves the distinction, not only between inside and outside, but also between subject and object, psyche and body. The Villa Tugendit, designed by Mies van der Rohe and Brno, has been able to withstand the passage of time, despite having been exposed to the historical turmoil of Central Europe for much of the 20th century. Its survival is quite miraculous. Villa Tugendit was inhabited by the family for more than 7 years. Before the German invasion in 1938, the owners, being of Jewish origin, had to flee. The property was confiscated by the Germans and the house almost destroyed. At the end of the war in 1945, the Soviets settled in the villa. Under communist Czechoslovakia, it became the property of the state. In 1985, its restoration was carried out, and in 2001 it was included in the UNESCO International Cultural and Natural Heritage List. Valued as one of the quintessential essays of the 20th century, in the use of order and the abstract reinterpretation of classical values, the building still radiates a deep sense of repose and discipline. The degree of national pride and respect for the building was recently recognized by its selection as the setting for the negotiations, which would lead to the peaceful and democratic separation of the Czech and Slovak republics.
If you like the video, please do hit that thumbs up and share it. Don't forget to subscribe and press the bell button. Thank you for watching and see you next time.